What's up, everybody? Super stoked. We're here on another episode of the T8 Outdoors podcast. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, can you do me a massive favor? Can you click the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a little comment? By doing that, it gets the podcast into the algorithm more, and then more people with disabilities are going to be able to hear the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that are promoted in this podcast specifically, and ones in the past and ones in the future. So if you guys could do that, and we could just get this message, get the word out to the disabled community, that's the whole point of this. God put it on my heart to lead this application. That's where we're at. But on the other side of the microphone today, I got a good buddy, Ed Martin, and he's out in North Carolina with a foundation called North Carolina Handicapped Sportsmen. He's got a couple other foundations he's going to touch on as well. Ed Martin, thank you for coming on. Can you let the people know who you are, the foundations? I'd love to hear some wisdom.
Yeah, sure can, buddy. Derek, first of all, man, I really appreciate you having me on. Information is key. And just like you touched on before about what you're trying to do about getting the word out about these organizations, that's what we run into all the time. We have a lot of people come up and say, man, well, I would love to know about your organization, but we just don't know about it. So like you said before, my name's Ed Martin. I'm here in North Carolina. I'm a 24-year Coast Guard veteran, and was kind of searching for something when I was coming up for retirement to do. I started off my nonprofit volunteer stuff with an organization called the Fallen Outdoors, which I still volunteer for, which is a 501c3 veteran organization. And I ended up linking up with a guy, and we rode together going on a duck hunt for a Fallen Outdoors thing, and he volunteered for an organization called North Carolina Handicapped Sportsmen. And we got to talking about it and thought it was something really cool. And we've been running into some veterans and people like that were disabled that we weren't able to take out on hunting and fishing trips because we just didn't have the ability or the equipment. Because sometimes, I mean, as you know, the disabled, I don't want to say gets forgotten about. I don't think that's fair to say, but it's just people don't know how to deal with people with disabilities. And sometimes they're not, I don't want to say afraid, but they're just unsure. And we know how people are with stuff that's unsure. And you got to hold your breath and jump into it. And you get linked up with some good people that aren't scared to fail and work hard to figure it out. That's kind of our motto. If we get you out, we'll figure it out somehow. So I was riding with him, and we talked about the North Carolina Handicapped Sportsmen, and I decided that it would be good to kind of link those two together. So he brought out a youth-year-old with the shins on a deer hunt on our property, and he was wheelchair bound and had to use the Be Adaptive rig to use the rifle for deer hunting. And then I brought out 3 veterans on that trip, and he was able to harvest a deer, and the veterans thought it was the coolest thing they had ever been a part of. They just thought it was the greatest thing. And I said, I think I'm on to something here. So a couple more years went by, and we did that hunt every year, and every year it was super successful. Our veterans came out and they loved it, and really enjoyed, rubbing elbows with the disabled youth and their parents, and kind of hearing their story and stuff like that. And it actually spawned some of them to start doing some volunteer work for fulfillment. And then the president of our organization is named Ed Mays. He's had this organization going now for about 15 years. He is a Army veteran that had onset ALS from an accident he had in the Army. So this organization's been around for a long time. He called me up one day and asked me if I would be willing to come on board and give Sean a hand, which is the gentleman that I rode with at that duck hunt on that day. And I said, absolutely. And I came on board, and when I came on board to the organization, we had 2 Be Adaptive rigs and one rifle, and that's all we had for the organization at the time. And we went to work and got our first track chair donated, which, as you know, anybody on here that's ever used a track chair, been around anybody using a track chair, just knows that those things are just game changers. And then that spawned into getting 2 more track chairs. That spawned us into getting designing and building a mobile handicap blind, which if you go on the North Carolina Handicapped Sportsman Facebook page, you'll be able to see pictures of that in action. And we designed that blind around the track chair. We can take it anywhere, drop the jacks on it, have it set up and ready to go in about 15 minutes. And then, put our hunter in there, drive the track chair right in there, and we're going to work. Yeah, I appreciate you putting that picture up. And then also, working with the Fallen Outdoors on the veteran side with having the track chairs and the ability to do that. Now when we set hunts up, we do a big pheasant hunt every year. We do, a bunch of stuff like that. We're able to take disabled veterans because now we have the know-how, we have the equipment to be able to put them in the field and, make them feel comfortable, which is the big thing to go out with us. So that's been a big help. I also volunteer with an organization called Gobbles and Grunts. It is a youth organization that started its life as helping underprivileged kids get out on a deer hunt. And once I started with North Carolina Handicapped Sportsmen, we brought out a little girl named Anna for the first time. She's was spina bifida, or excuse me, she has cerebral palsy, non-audible, but was one of the coolest little girls to be around. Super charismatic, smile could light up a room, and we all learned a lot from her. She was kind of the first one that came in to camp, and she shot a great deer, and that kind of started Gobbles and Grunts journey, helping with the disabled. Snow in turn, they have 2 track chairs, 2 rigs, and they have 2 mobile blinds, which all of us have access to. So we can take out, 5 track chairs, 4 rigs, be adaptive rigs, and 3 blinds that we can have access to at any time that we need it. So we're rolling pretty good here in North Carolina, and we help out a lot of. We're small in the number of people. Me and I have a group of people that I can kind of call on, friends of mine that would love to come out and help. So we've linked up with a lot of big hunts in North Carolina. One of those hunts being Sawtooth Farms hunt, where last year we took out 74 disabled sportsmen, and we took 115 deer in a Friday and Saturday, but they put them up
Woo.
in a hotel. We have another organization called Waymaker Outdoors down in South Carolina, or just Waymaker. Check them out on Facebook. And they have, I think they're up to about 32 track chairs now. And basically, they have a bunch of
Wow.
volunteers. You call them up, and they'll bring you a track chair for you to use for no charge. But they come up to these big hunts and bring all the track chairs in, and they're just a lot of fun. We have a blast. All the disabled people to come in. We get to hang out and share stories and check each other's equipment and share notes. And I'm constantly sending out information on the equipment that we use because our goal is to get people in our organization and take them out a couple times and show them what's possible. And then hopefully they're able to go out and kind of strike out on their own, and kind of do their own
Yeah.
thing. But we're always here to assist when we need it.
I absolutely love that. Yeah, the track chair, game changer. I do a lot of 3D archery shoots out here in the West, and that track chair allows me personally to get up and smash around in the forest and just cruise with the boys and cruise with my friends and stuff that I wouldn't, like probably could do it, but when I don't people pushing me the whole time, I feel
Absolutely.
bad. And I want my own independence. Like I don't want to be a burden. I want to be an asset. I don't wanna have to be able to be like, "Alright, can you take over, dude? I'm, like, dying, like, how are we gonna get him up this hill?" I wanna be like, "Oh, no, just here I go." So, yeah, I ended up getting a track chair, and it was game changer, amazing stuff. These touched on several foundations, and I'm sorry if you see me looking off to the side. I got your Facebook pulled up off to the side, and I'm just linking photos. But how many deer did you guys put down in a single weekend? 115.
115. Yep. And it's they're in they did their 15th year this year at Sawtooth, and they're just great people. And the big thing is the way these organizations work is you have to have your community behind you. If you don't have the support
Right.
from your community, I mean, this stuff costs money, maintenance, and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
their community is all about it. I mean, they all these disabled sportsmen that come in, they have somebody come in and grab them and take them out to usually their property, and they've got everything set up. They contact them, 3-4 weeks in advance, talk to the hunter they're taking out, find out what their needs are, and then they got organizations like North Carolina Handicapped Sportsmen and Waymaker. And I think we had an organization come in, can't remember the name of it. I want to say they came in from Kentucky, all the way up, brought their trailer and just brought in as much equipment as they could. And as people needed equipment, we're just handing it out to make sure we're successful there. But they put everybody up in hotels. They feed everybody for the weekend, the sportsmen and their volunteers. And it's just a great time. So much fun to be able to see that many people get together. Like in the veteran world, we say you get around like-minded individuals. When you get out that
Right.
many disabled sportsmen out there and all different, walks of life and different disabilities, it's pretty cool to watch and watching them interact with each other and learning, man. Every time I go out there, it's a learning experience. Especially dealing with the individuals that are non-audible. Learning how they like to communicate with you has been really cool. It's a lot of fun, and I find that humor is the big thing. As I've learned, because I'm pretty able-bodied, kind of busted up from the military, but coming into their world, cracking jokes and humor is always, such a great thing. So that's a big thing that I've learned is being able to be open and communicate, and do the best you can to give them a great experience. Because unfortunately, you don't know how many experiences they're going to be able to have, especially if they because the issue is what makes these organizations so important is that the cost of this equipment is just, I've learned this, and it blows my mind how much the equipment is for any of the disabled stuff. It's just astronomical. I mean, most people don't have 15, $16,000 to spend on a track chair, or 25, $3,000 to spend on an adaptive shooting platform, and
Mhm.
then everything else that goes with it, the batteries and everything like that. So for us, it's really cool that we're able to go out and take these people out and let them experience this stuff. And our community is awesome, man. They're so supportive. All the raffles that we do to raise money, because we do all this at no cost. A lot of people don't realize that. Like, we're not a guide service. We do guide, but we don't charge anything to them or the family. And we work really hard to. That's why we have a mobile blind. I just picked up a snowmobile trailer that I refurbished, and I can haul 4 track chairs on that trailer and then one in the bed of the truck. So I'm able to take 5 track chairs wherever we go. And to be able to show up with all that equipment, um, and get them out is paramount. But we try to go. We're mobile, so we try to go to where they are, because the more we can get these individuals out and doing hunting and fishing trips with around their family, that's the biggest thing. We've worked with kids before that put the deer in the back of the truck and drove it around for 2 days in their community showing it off. So we work
Mhm.
real hard to try to do it as close to the family as possible. Me being retired, this is kind of what I do. So I'm able to go up on a couple days early, scout, set up whatever I need to do to make sure we can get out the best opportunity we can for these individuals.
And it's so rewarding seeing their faces, because man, dude, a lot of these kids, all they know is, pain. I don't want to say like suffering, trials and tribulations. Their entire life is just riddled with hard times. I know the events that I've been a part of, and you see these kids harvest a deer, or so me specifically, I'm out in Southern California right now. I'm working on setting up something in the hunting and fishing arena, but I'm a coach for the Special Olympics track and field team in
Nice.
my local town, and just to see them at the end of the race is like, these kids don't care if they get bronze, silver, gold. Like, they get a ribbon and jumping up and down and just hooting and hollering, and it's just, and then like you get a kid on a deer, and it's just like the emotion that comes out of them like just goes directly into your heart, and it is just, it's so rewarding. Like you said, those veterans went out on that deer hunt, and they said there was probably the best time they've ever had, or pretty close, to being a top moment in their life. It's super rewarding, and that's where the saying comes, it's better to give than to receive, and you don't really realize that until like you actually sacrifice what's precious to you and give it to someone else. And then just to see them blow up and just be happy. And then another thing too is you touched on is you're not only blessing the child or the person with the opportunity, but you're also blessing the parent, or the guardian, the caretaker, whoever's with that person. You're giving them a break. You know what I mean? A break from that norm that is just trials, tribulations, and hard times. And it's just it's an all around blessing. So I'm just super, super ecstatic on what you guys got going on over there. And the fact that you got that blind too, that's mobile. and you can get track chairs in it. I mean, that's amazing. That's awesome. I would love to get something like that out here. I'm gonna pick your brain after this podcast, but
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
what?
we did the first year we did the sawtooth farm hunt. We had a gentleman named Cameron. He's a was an army sniper, and he had him and his fiance at the time on their motorcycle, and they got hit by a distracted driver and are both amputees on the left side. And his fiance at the time, had never. They're married now, but she had never really deer hunted before. Always wanted to, but she didn't want to go unless she went with Cameron, which I kind of get. But we were able to
Mm,
put two chairs, and four adults in our blind, and she was able to harvest her first deer, a small buck, but she got to do it, with her husband alongside of her, and we were able to put both of them in the blind. So our design and kind of worked of what we can, the capabilities we have. And I tell people too is like, think outside the box. People think just because we're North Carolina Handicapped Sportsmen, that the person that's disabled is the one that has to be on the trigger, that's not it. We're here to supply, we're here to supply an experience, not to supply a hunt necessarily. So I tell people, I was like, if grandpa or grandma can't walk anymore and they want to go get in the blind and let their grandkids pull the trigger, I don't care. That's not what it's about. It's about the experience. So it's not, a lot of people are like, oh, what do you want to do? I'm like, look, it's not my hunt. It's your hunt. Just because I brought this equipment up here doesn't mean that I'm in charge. Like this is for you. This is for, I've had kids before a deer walk out and they're like, I just want to watch it. I don't want to shoot it. And I'm like, that's fine. We can take pictures of it. And it's about you having a good time and allowing us to show you what you can do, and how healing the outdoors is. And that's not just for
massive.
disabled people, that's for anybody, especially our veterans. Believe it or not, there's people, in this world that's never sat in a blind and watched the woods come alive. We take it for
Mm,
granted. I grew up doing it
my
as a
favorite.
as a North Carolinian, since I was, 8, 9 years old. But there's people who just don't realize that exists. And you get them out there for the first time and they're just blown away being able to be out there. But the key is that, if you're disabled, it's a leap, to entrust into an organization to tell you they can get you out, and they have to take the first step sometimes. Sometimes it takes a little convincing. But I've noticed that once you convince them to take that first step of just getting on the shooting rest and getting a 22 in their hand or a crossbow or anything like that, and get them to shoot a little bit, then their appetite starts to kind of come. And then you go from there. Well,
Oh
let's
yeah.
get in the track chair and, go drive around the field. And then, you get them to the blind and they see their first animal, whatever that may be, that we might be hunting at the time. And, after that, I say I just turn them into animals. That's all they want to do is hunt and fish. We had a little boy with spina bifida, and we took him out on his first deer hunt. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to harvest a deer, but it was like an awakening. Like he was 10 years old at the time. The next event we had coming up was a rabbit hunt, that we're bringing veteran families and kids out, and some disabled kids out, bringing the track chairs out, and we were going to go chase beagles and hunt rabbits. And the date of the rabbit hunt was the date they had scheduled to go to Disney World. And he looked right at his parents and said, "Well, you're going to have to change that Disney World trip because I want to go rabbit hunting."
Sold.
It's about feeding. Once you get them, it's about feeding that fire, and that's with any
Uh-huh.
youth, really. I tell them all the time. I do a lot of with the veteran organization. I do a lot of parent kid hunts, first time deer hunts. And we talked about youth turkeys coming up here in North Carolina, the first weekend of April, and I'm getting ready to post on the page right now. And I got two disabled kids we're getting out, and then we got two slots for veteran kids. I'm going to put on the page to get some kids of veterans or active duty, get them out hunting. And we're targeting first time turkey hunters, kids that never had the opportunity to do it before. Cause I mean, my goal is to turn them into absolute outdoor animals, just fall in love with it. Cause I think it's something that we have to protect and take care of because, if the kids aren't hunting, because I'm sure don't know how it is in California, but I know North Carolina, we're losing so much hunting property to neighborhoods and development. And it's sad to see the places that I hunted
Mhm.
as a kid are now apartment complexes. And it's getting harder and harder to find places to hunt here. So, we gotta get these youth involved, so we can hopefully try to stop some of that. And kind of talk to the state about possibly picking up more land, or landowners putting it in a trust to where it can't be developed. I work with a couple landowners that have done that, with their families, which is really cool to see, to know that that property will never be touched. So
Yeah, no, that's huge. It's I think that's pretty much the story I've been hearing all over the country, more people, more problems. And it's not only like we're losing the hunting land, but the critters are losing their homes. You know what I mean? Like where are they going to go? And eventually it's gonna be nowhere else to run, nowhere else to go grow and live life. But yeah, no, that's absolutely amazing on so many fronts. And two is like when you're taking these people out with these disabilities, is like you learn so much about the disability that you would never, I'll speak for myself, that you would never know until you're up close and personal with it. Then you see what they go through. You see the challenges this has. Like, oh, you're paralyzed. Oh, okay, your legs don't work. But then, like when you go and you meet up with them, you're like, and then you see all the rest of like what actually goes into it. It's not just, oh, your legs don't work. It's like, no, it's a whole different lifestyle change. Like everything changes.
well, it
Um,
affects the whole family. I mean, and that's a big thing with our kids is, once you get the parents on board, like I talked about before, the young girl Anna, she's from Ohio, and I think she has shot a doe before she came down to hunt with us at Gobbles and Grunts, but that was her first buck. And then after that, people in other organizations saw her, and she started getting invited to all these hunts, and I think she's taken an elk, a black buck. She shot a bison, and this past year she went alligator hunting in Florida. So yeah, big time.
what?
She just turned 16, and she loves it. She's into it. She's got a younger brother that helps out, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's all about her family. Her mom and her dad are all in, and that's cool too because with our organization too, we try to kind of take that burden off the parents a little bit, and get them out in the blind with us, and they can kind of relax and kick back, and we get to enjoy some time out in the woods. But you're 100% right, man, because people, they just don't realize, and I was one of them. You see somebody that's disabled, and you don't shun them, but you don't really get in their life. And then I know for me, when I first started doing this, it was kind of scary. Because you're like, I don't know how to approach this person. I don't know how to talk to them. I mean, I'm standing upright and able to walk and talk and move my arms, and are they going to resent me for that? And you learn real quick that they're people just like everybody else. And like I said, humor is a big thing. And I learned that with Anna. She was not audible, and I was kind of talking slow to her and slowing down how I was saying things. And her mom kind of pulled me aside and was say, "Hey, listen, she's a straight A student. She's super smart." She's like, she just can't get it out. And then once it clicked, and that was the aha moment. I started talking to her normal and cracking jokes and making her laugh, and that's really started for me. So now it's I'm in it 100%, just walking up to people and treating them just like I would anybody else. So that's been
Right.
I got a 17-year-old daughter that's been volunteering with me, and she gets to learn from all this stuff too. And it's making her a better person. It's definitely opened my eyes, and I really, really enjoy it. Being able to help these individuals get out and make some of their dreams come true, if that's what it is. Just prove to them that they can do it. Supplying this equipment at no charge is, and like I said, me being a veteran, the VA wanted me to take a bunch of, pills for mental illness, and through therapy and doing this type of stuff, it's kept me from having to do that, which is huge for me. And it's huge for other veterans that I work with. I got a core group of individuals that I can call on anytime. It's like, hey, I need help setting up a blind, or we're doing this hunt, need some extra people, and it's never an issue. And now, like I said, that goes back to our community. We work with a bunch of different outfitters and shops around the area that will donate firearms and equipment. Most of all of our equipment with the exception of the first rifle that we had when I first started this, has all been donated. All 3 track chairs have been donated. The blind, probably 90% of all the stuff for that was donated. So that's the type of stuff that helps us out and lets us do this stuff for no charge to the individuals. Is just having people back us is big. And they look on our Facebook page kind of like you did. And the big thing is they see that we're doing what we say we're doing. That's the big thing is, I can sit here and talk about North Carolina Handicapped Sportsmen all day, but if you don't see those, we're in that media age where, photos
Yeah.
and stories and posts are big. And that's something I've learned too, is a lot of times now when I don't even take a firearm, I just take my camera and take my phone, and I'm just in it to take pictures and videos and do the best I can to get the word out.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. Put your money where your mouth is huge, and it's like you could see the person's tree all day, but if you don't see the fruit that that tree bears, it's nothing, dude. But like what I like what you said earlier is having a community behind you too, and I'm sure. Well, I can't say I'm sure. I would think that you guys have a pretty healthy number of people willing and wanting to volunteer and just get out in the blinds with people with disabilities or kids and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, we have,
or are you looking for
there's
more?
3 of us that are on most of the hunts. I'm the main one, but like I said, I'm retired, so I'm able to go, here to there. But, the cool thing about it is, all the landowners that I deal with and stuff like that, where we go, the families we deal with are all, they're all about it. And fortunately, for us, our blind is big. And we made it that way for a reason. Because when we go out to landowners' properties, if we have room, I'm like, hey, why don't you come out and sit with us? Because one thing to donate property, being able to be in the experience. You know, the landowner, if they're not with us, is always my first call, my first text. Hey, we just downed an animal. Come on out. Be part of the celebration, because you can't. I don't have the money to pay these individuals for letting us use their property. So anything I can do to let them be a part of the experience, I think that's very important. That's kind of word to the wise for people that want to do this sort of thing. Is to get those individuals involved as much as possible, and being able to put them in the blind, or bringing one of their kids along, especially if you're hunting with another kid. Those experiences are things you can't replicate it. So being involved, and if you bring a kid out and let them help volunteer, they might be the one that takes my place, 10 years down the road, because they get the bug
Um,
for it and they really want to help out. So, we get as many people involved as possible. Now, with that said, you have to learn to kind of feel out the family, and, feel out the individual you're working with to make sure that they're comfortable with having strangers around. I've run into a great story for that is we were doing our annual dove hunt. We bring a bunch of veteran families out, and disabled kids bring their whole families out for a day in the dove field. And there was a mom that kind of sat close to me when we were eating and kind of started bending my ear. And I had seen her daughter walking around, but her daughter was a little person. And she said she was, I think, she was 15 or 16 at the time. And her mom was like, she's always been really interested in hunting, but she's never tried to shoot or anything like that, because she gets embarrassed if there's things she can't do. So she didn't want to go up there in front of a bunch of people, get onto, the gun table, pick up a rifle and not be able to shoot. And I said, well, we
uh,
can fix that. I was like, I'm coming back up this way for archery hunt next week. We got the field, we got the farm. The landowners have no issue with me bringing people up here. So why don't you just bring just you and her, or her and her dad, come up here? I was like, I'll bring the 22, I'll bring the 17, I'll bring the 7 mm 08, I'll bring the 308. We'll just start from the smallest one, and work our way up and see what she's comfortable with and what she can do. And we work with her, found out that she needed to wear an eye patch, because she was left eye dominant, but right-handed. So we got that all figured out, and got it to where she was busting the target, and she really had a good time. She was able to do everything on her own. All the firearms I have are compacts, because they just fit in the rigs better. So she was able to use everything and do everything, and ended up coming to our gobbles and grunts hunt that year, and shot a nice 8-point buck. And then after that, she, went duck hunting, she went turkey hunting, and then so on and so forth. So, just a big thing is just you got to fill out the parents and fill out the individual to make sure what you're doing they're comfortable with. And the more you work with them, the more comfortable they'll get. But that was one of the ones that was kind of a learning experience that I was, had a really good time and was able to felt pretty good to be able to help her out. And now she, goes and hunts on her own, and she's 17 years old now.
Sick.
And, her parents hit me up, what kind of rifle are you using? What kind of scope do you have? And, I got them set up with the local shop there, what she needed to get, what she needed to order, and what caliber I was using and what she was comfortable with. And now she has her own rifles and shotguns, and, she's out there participating with everybody else. So, that's our goal, is to be able to, show kind of the way we do things is obviously our organization helps anybody that's disabled can hit us up, and we'll get out and help them. But I do lean more towards the kids because I like to get them when they're young to kind of show them what they can do and kind of get that, like I said, get that fire going. We kind of start out with dove season on Labor Day. We bring them out to the dove hunt, and that's kind of my introduction. I think dove hunting and rabbit hunting for kids is great because it's tons of action, lots of guns going off, people yelling, people having a good time. I think it's a great introduction for kids for that. Then after the dove hunt, we start looking at deer season, and that's when we use our gobbles and grunts hunt that we do every year. We bring in anywhere from 15 to 25 kids during that hunt, and having 5 track chairs, 3 blinds, and 5 rigs, we're able to bring out, up to 5 disabled kids one time to put them up at camp, bring the whole family in. The camp we use is handicap friendly, and they have several handicap showers. All the cabins are set up for that, which is huge. And that's
Huge.
just me, uh, dumb, able-bodied guy that just those things just you don't realize that stuff until you start getting into it. And some of the things I've learned, I just shake my head at some of the things, especially with hotels. And I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but and I'll get back to that story later. But that's kind of funny. But then we bring them out deer hunting, let them deer hunt, and then the same organization, Gobbles and Grunts, and a couple other organizations put on. Then after that, we get into duck season. We take the track chairs out in the swamp, shoot wood ducks. Then we get into turkey season, rabbit hunt. We do the rabbit hunt, and then we get into turkey season and take them out for youth weekend if they're old, depending on their age, if they're eligible to get out for youth day. And then after that, we kind of, I don't want to say we cut them loose, but we're kind of like, all right, well, we've taken you on pretty much anything that you can hunt. We showed that you can do it. Now, we start, I work with East Coast Track Chairs. They're based out of Virginia, and they've been great. And
Mhm.
they help us look for, if individuals are looking for chairs, they can find them a used chair. Or if they find a chair on Marketplace, which is kind of crazy looking for track chairs on Facebook Marketplace, but we found them. And they can pick them up, and they'll
They're
take them
there.
up to East Coast Track Chairs, and they'll go through them and put new batteries in them and get them set up for these individuals. And they work with a lot of the like Sawtooth. Sawtooth gives away 3 to 4 track chairs every year. Sarah
I love
Behringer's
it.
an absolute beast. She's just she goes after these big corporations and big organizations that will donate enough money to purchase these used track chairs, and East Coast Track Chairs will fix them up for her, and then we give them away. Santa Claus gave a little boy a track chair this year at the hunt in December. That was pretty freaking cool. So because that track chair was on his Christmas list, and Santa Claus drove the track chair in and gave it to him for Christmas. So, but back to the hotel story. I worked with an individual named Tom. He's a triple amputee Marine Corps veteran. He was blown up in Iraq and lost 3 limbs. And when I first I call him his handler, but basically he's got a good buddy of his as his able-bodied assistant. Kind of started talking to me, and we started figuring out ways to get Tom out because Tom was kind of a recluse, and we kind of got him out of his shell.
Mhm.
And the cool thing about it is that he had shot a turkey before on a wounded warrior hunt, and we had a turkey hunt coming up. And Steve, which is the individual that helps him out, called me up and said, "Hey, he's got a 10-year-old daughter. Do you mind if she comes with him?" I said, "Better yet, how does he feel about his 10-year-old getting behind the trigger?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, if he's cool with it, we'll let her hunt, and he can be a part of it." So he was all about it. Unfortunately, we didn't harvest a turkey. We saw some, but wasn't able to get on them. But that was her first ever hunt where she was behind the trigger, and her dad was there and got to experience it, and that started a whole thing
Oh,
with his
right.
daughter Aiden. But we went to the dinner the Friday night before the hunt and got to the hotel that we were staying at, and the fire trucks were there, and come to find out a kid had pulled the fire alarm. But Tom was in about a 600, probably 450 pound three-wheeled wheelchair. And, him being a triple amputee, he wasn't exactly going to, hop out and hop up the steps. But we found out very quickly that the elevators weren't working and they weren't able to reset them. And I was completely confused that a handicap room was on the second floor. And they're like, yeah, that just happens to us all the time. And, like I said, we get into the humor. I'm like, well, what do we do if a fire? He's like, just toss me off the balcony into the pool. I should be okay. But it just blew my
Sink and
mind
swim.
to find out that the hotels, they just have to have a certain amount of rooms that are considered handicap accessible to, reach code, and that all these rooms weren't on the first floor. And in a fire, it disables the elevators. So I was like, I don't get it. And they just all laughed about it. To them it was just normal. But that was one of my first learning experiences of how some of this stuff just doesn't make any sense. But we ended up staying in the lobby till about 1:30 in the morning, waiting for the elevator tech to get there to turn the elevators back on. And we had to get up at 5 to go turkey hunt. So I decided to kind of show my frustration to the hotel. And Aiden was given a
Good for you.
slate call. So I decided to break out the slate call and teach his daughter, Aiden, the 10-year-old, how to call turkeys in the middle of the lobby for about 2 hours. So I think everybody was sick of hearing a turkey by the time we were done. But yeah, it's just great. I mean, just the amount of stuff I've learned is just been really cool. The journey's been cool for me, and all the individuals that help out. So it's super rewarding to be able to get out and do this stuff. I'm blessed that I got kind of called to do this, and just kind of put me in the right place at the right time to kind of take off with this. And I don't see any stopping in the near future. And I kind of look at it one day, I might be the guy in the track chair. So if that's the case, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
No, yeah, that's I love it that God's called you to fulfill a certain role here on earth, and you take it and you go forward 100%, just no holds bar. I absolutely love it. Yeah, like you said, we could get into some stories about hotels and whatnot, and it's just the whole disability world is kind of just cast off to the side. Like, all right, we got our code. Yeah, no worries. All right, we'll see you later. And it's just yeah, I've got some stories, but it gets to a point where it's like I call corporate. I'll go above the hotel. I'll get into corporate's ear, and then come back a year later and nothing's happened. That's it here or there. But anyway, it's super cool what all the things that you guys have gone and these kids that you've been able to help and all the disabilities. My mind is running. I'm just trying to figure out the subject I want to touch on, but it goes to show that there's so many disabled people out there who like I told you in the beginning before we started recording, they're hitting me up asking me hey, how do I get outdoors? How do I do this and stuff like that? And I'm just guessing, but every year that goes by, do you guys have more applications to come hunt? More and more and more, like you see your foundation growing, or
Well, you would think so. We get a lot of what we call the frequent flyers. You got people that are disabled that, I don't want to say they take advantage of the system, but you just see them everywhere. Getting called up to do all these hunts, all over the United States, going to Africa and stuff like that. And you just have the ones that you deal with, you talk to that, just aren't interested. And that's the big thing for us is I'm a big proponent. I try to get those first timers. That's really what I'm looking for. I want to prove to them that they can get out, prove to the parents that they can get out. And, it doesn't take a ton of money to get a rifle and a tripod if that's what you need. The technology out there now, I mean, you can go on Amazon and find the cameras that slip onto the back of the scope. That's a lot of the kids I work with. That's what they're going with now to help them aim. And, obviously the people around them to help them aim. So there's ways to do things. And our organizations are here to help you do that. Answer questions. What equipment we use has been good, what equipment hasn't. But there's cheap alternatives out there. I mean, even a scope phone, where it slips on the back of your scope, you stick your phone in it. Is it the best thing in the world? No, but it'll get you out, and it'll work. I've seen people hunt with them before. The big thing is just convincing these individuals to give it a shot. Because like I said before, you got the wills and the will nots, unfortunately. And sometimes those will nots, you can kind of nudge them. And like I said before, you got to kind of read them. Throughout my career in the military, that was a skill that I learned, was able to how to kind of read people and feed off their personality. And that's kind of helped me with doing this, to try to get those individuals that are, like I said, they don't want to fail. They failed in things throughout their life, and it's our goal to prove to them that whatever they can think of. I love it. I mean, being a Coast Guardman, doing search and rescue and stuff, I was a problem solver. Kind of on the fly, trying to figure thing out. And I tell them, I'm like, look, we'll figure it out. Like, we'll figure out how to get you out. If we gotta build a bridge, if we gotta airlift you in, whatever we got to do, we'll figure it out. And that's where, like I
Uh-huh.
said, you fall back on your community. I like to, everybody jokes with me that says I'm the king of I know a guy. If I get called about something, I'll call somebody that knows something about somebody, and we can figure it out. We can get it done. I've had veterans reach out to me. I had a veteran reach out to me from Oregon State through Facebook and said, "Hey, I got this Marine veteran that's having a hard time, and he could really he needs to get out." And we had him in a deer stand the next day. So it's everything's doable. Like I say, just use your imagination, and we can figure it
Right.
out. If we don't have the equipment, we'll find it. And if I can't find it, I'll call somebody that can find it. But we just need our disabled community to be willing to take that leap, and have a little faith in us. And I know there's not necessarily other organizations, but things they've tried to probably do in their life and they've been let down. Promises made that didn't come through. But one thing I can say with the group of individuals I work with is they're mostly military veterans. We're always, if there's a will, there's a way. And if I can get your butt in a track chair and get you out to do something, then if we say we're going to do it, we'll do it. Um,
I
and
love
that's
it.
that's really what we stand by. But I kind of circled your question, but I would love to tell you that I got people coming out of the woodwork. But I tell people all the time, I have people call me up and say, "Hey, I want 8 or 9 or 10 disabled people." And I'm like, "Man, I'll do what I can." But believe it or not, it's not as easy to find disabled sportsmen that want to get out and hunt as much as you think they would. Like I said, the Sawtooth Farm hunt's awesome. They had 70, I think they had 73 disabled sportsmen this year, but it's a lot of the same individuals. Not a whole lot.
Uh,
Maybe 10% might be new to the hunt. They're just not as easy to find as you think, because there's a lot of them that aren't willing to take that leap of faith in us to try to get out. They don't want to fail, and it's our goal to make
right.
sure that they don't. And then we have. It's funny. I used to say my kind of my joke was is not necessarily a joke, but kind of what I told people when I was kind of doing the spiel about what we do is I said, as long as you can see the screen that our scopes link to, I can take you hunting. Well, I did a disabled veteran hunt this year and took an individual that was blind, and they had the rifle up to their shoulder, and I was looking at the scope through my cell phone and lined up the crosshairs, and they were able to take the deer. So now I can't use that analogy anymore, that if you can't see, I can't take you hunting. Really, I don't think we found anything that limits us to be able to get people out. Because the first thing I learned especially with our paralyzed individuals, that you got to keep them warm and you got to keep them dry. And that's where that went into when we built our blind. We made sure everything was waterproof and we insulated it, and we put a buddy heater in there, and that blind's nice and toasty. The windows are school bus style windows, so they slide straight up so they can stay closed at all times. I've mounted our a rig on a hospital table, a table that you use when you eat your food at the hospital. That table is on
Yeah.
wheels. Yeah, I mounted the rig to one of those, so it's on wheels. So I just slide the window up and just push the rig out, get the barrel outside the blind, and but we're able to keep it closed, and it's dry and warm. Everybody's nice and comfortable. And I tell people, it kind of spoils you, to be honest with you, because it's so nice in there. It's like sitting in a hotel room, waiting for an animal to come out. But we've, but what we've learned, we put into practice, um, to make sure that we can get anybody that comes our way, that we can find a way to get them out.
I love it. So if somebody hits me up and they're interested in trying to get out and be a part of your guys' organization, where do I send them? How do I get them in touch with you?
Just have them hit us up on our Facebook page, the North Carolina Handicapped Sportsmen Facebook page. There is two pages. There's a group, which that's not necessary, but there's just a page that you can get on. But if you message that page directly, you're going to be talking directly to me or my counterpart, Chris Hafner. And that's the best way to get in touch with us, is right there through Facebook. Just Facebook message the page and you'll be talking directly to us. And then we can work everything out from there. I'm open to questions. I get a lot, obviously we get a lot of questions about the blind. Just be prepared. We kind of designed it as we went. It took us about 2 months to build. And we priced it all out, kind of guesstimate, we were looking at about $8,500 to build it. But like I said, 90% of that was donated. But Gobbles and Grunts actually took 2 trailers, standard trailers you would see people, use for their businesses, and closed trailers, and had them modified with windows and the jack stands on all 4 corners. And they hunt out of those, and they work great. You just got to find a company that's willing to modify it, put the windows in it, or do it yourself. If you get an old trailer. We were just fortunate that the guy designed and built the blind with was retired at the time too, so we just kind of put our heads together, and what we learned from the first blind put into the second one, and get ready to start our third one this summer. We're gonna make it a little bit bigger, and try to make it a little lighter than the one we have now. But yeah, you can see the pictures on Facebook. Ask me anything about the equipment, how we have it set up. I have 2 marine batteries on it with the marine switch, with a solar panel that charges those, and have it wired to where it can run all our equipment. So the blind is 100% self-sufficient. We can put up to 2 track chairs and 2 rigs inside the blind for transport. So when we show up, we're ready to go. Got everything we need.
I love it. I love it. Man, anything you need from me as well, like, you just let me know, and I'll move heaven and earth to do as much as I can do to help you guys out. Like I said, I'm building that list of foundations and 1C3s. I'm gonna get you guys added onto that after this podcast. If you could text me those foundations you've touched on,
Yep,
the ones that have
100%.
all the track chairs, all these other ones that you've kind of touched on, that'd be great. Just something I could add to the list. Just the more the merrier would be great. But coming up on an hour, and try to keep it around an hour. But at the end of every podcast, you guys know that I'm a man of faith, I'm a man of God, and I thank him for all he's done for me. So I'm gonna lift up a quick prayer. I'm gonna pray over Ed. I'm gonna pray over North Carolina Handicapped Sportsmen and this podcast. And we're gonna see where it goes. So if you guys don't mind, I'm just gonna lift it up real quick. Father God, thank you so much for the blessings you've given us, Lord. Thank you for the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we were blessed with today from Ed. And Lord of God, I just pray over Ed. I thank you so much for giving him this opportunity, Lord, to glorify your name and all that he does, Lord, and just to help the people who need help, Lord God. And as you say in your word, Lord, you help the least among the group, Lord God. You're helping you directly, Father, and I just thank you for that. I thank you for North Carolina Sportsmen. I pray that you would bless him. Every foundation that he touched on, bless them, Lord God. And God, just whoever needs to hear this, Lord, I pray that you would just bring them into this podcast, show them the way, show them the truth, show them the light, Lord God, and then let's get them in the woods, God. Your creation is all encompassing, all powerful, and all healing, Lord. So I thank you so much for all you do and you continue to do, and use us for your glory. And it's in your son, Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Awesome, Ed. Thank you so much for coming on, bud. I'll get this out as soon as I can. And Good luck in turkey season.
Yeah, man. Hey, Derek, I really appreciate it, man. And that list you're putting together is awesome, man. It's that's one of our biggest complaints is people come up to us and like, man, we just didn't know you guys existed. So the more word we can get out, to get volunteers and landowners and hunters, and the more the better. So I appreciate it.
Awesome, bud. Yeah, it's a slow work in progress. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to website building, but we're working it out. Gonna get it out there. Gonna see where God takes it. It's in His hands. So thanks, bud. I really appreciate everything you're doing, and I'll have you on in about a year and see how things went.
All right. Sounds good, buddy. Appreciate you.
Good.